Well, it was highly anticipated here in Japan that Suga would win. He had the backings of all the major factions within the ruling LDP party. And so this was not a surprise for the public. In fact, in the past few weeks, another contender had been the public favorite to win, but quickly Suga had overcome that and is now kind of the public favorite. And so Suga has floated the idea of potentially holding a snap election to kind of make use of this newfound popularity within Japan.
There are concerns. One of the initial ones that have come out is that unlike Mr. Abe, who was advocating for womanomics, he brought about the term womanomics. Mr. Suga is a very patriarchal figure. Have you gotten a sense of this?
Well, when it comes to policies, Mr. Suga has said that widely he will follow through with the policies that Abe had been planning to implement. He was, of course, Abe's right-hand man after all, so we can expect to continue to see kind of Abe's shadow in Japanese politics even after he's gone. When it comes to women, Abe hadn't really been able to implement a lot of the policies that he wanted to. Japan is still very, very far behind in OECD countries and G7 countries in terms of women in politics or women in the workforce in general who are not working part-time or odd jobs. So this will be a major hurdle for him as well. There are other key policies that he needs to step up on, including the revisiting Japan's pacifist constitution or bringing back abductees from North Korea and filing the kind of territorial disputes with Russia as well. So there's a handful of policies that Abe had wanted to kind of step foot on and then didn't really manage to. It seems Suga will be the one who will try to follow through with those.
Is the Japanese population optimistic about this new development?
Well, there is a kind of mixed reaction. It seems the public here are very aware that Suga, is Abe's right-hand man, so they don't expect to see a lot of change in policy. But what they are expecting is stability from Suga. He, has been in politics for a very long time. He's not looking to change things up. So this kind of stability in the midst of this pandemic is very attractive, not only for the LDP, but for the Japanese public as well. They are hoping to make sure that COVID-19 is front and center of Suga's reign in the next few months. Of course, they want to have 200,000 tests in the wintertime. As it gets colder, there is worry that COVID-19 might become a more pressing situation here. There's also the promise from the Japanese government that they will vaccinate all citizens, all residents actually, in the beginning of next year and to go ahead with the Olympics as well. So those are all things that the Japanese public will be looking to when it comes to Suga's new reign as Prime Minister starting Wednesday.
Yeah. Just take us through the process now. Today is Monday. What needs to happen for the Prime Minister's new position to be solidified and be official?
Well, Japan has been in a pretty good place for COVID in the past few months, and that's actually what Prime Minister Shinzo Abe had talked about when he was resigning. He said, well, COVID cases have kind of mellowed out. Now seems to be a good time to resign to make sure that the public is in good hands, especially with the winter season coming. So now they're going to try and continue to make sure that COVID numbers don't get out of hand. The Japanese government has already implemented a few measures to try and kickstart the economy again, which has been pummeled by COVID-19, including the Go To Travel campaign. A bit controversial here in Japan, seeing that the government is encouraging people to travel in the middle of the pandemic, but it's becoming increasingly clear that the economy is suffering very, very hard from the pandemic, and a lot of smaller businesses are going out of business. They want to make sure that there isn't too much permanent damage due to the pandemic going forward.
Yeah, one would be hard-pressed to find an economy where there aren't such concerns. But I want to ask you, Grace, obviously, as Africans, we're concerned about continuing relations with Japan between both the continent in terms of TICAD but also South Africa, in terms of all the investment that Japan is bringing into the country from 2013 to 2019. Japanese companies contributed about 50 billion rand worth of investment into the South African economy. And you remember last year, President Cyril Ramaphosa visited Japan for an unprecedented 3 times in 1 year. First for the G20 Osaka summit, and then the TICAD 7, and then the Rugby World Cup, of course, which ended quite nicely in our favor. What can we expect to see in terms of the South Africa-Japan bilateral and the South Africa and the Africa-Japan relationship going forward with this new Prime Minister?
Well, this is going to be interesting to see because Suga is not really known to be a good interrelational politician. He's not really the type to go out, shake hands, become friends with different world leaders. That was, of course, the Prime Minister's job. Shinzo Abe had been doing that, and he was relatively good at speaking with other world leaders. And so it seems Abe will be relying on Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, even going forward, to give him advice and give him help in fostering these relations. So it's not immediately clear what kind of impact he will have in terms of Japan and Africa's relationship, or even Japan and U.S. relations moving forward. They're also worried about Japan and China as well. This comes at a very important time for Japan and China. Relationships have been getting a little bit rocky. The U.S. is going through an election. So there are many kind of uncontrollables and a lot of question marks in the air as Suga comes into this new job. And it looks like he's trying to keep this job for a while, with his notion of perhaps calling a snap election as well. So a lot of people are wondering what this new role will mean for him, and whether or not he has kind of the foundation to make sure that he's remembered as a world leader.